Hey everybody, uglyShader here with another YouTube video tutorial, and today, as obviously the title told you, we're getting a quick rundown of the mirror modifier. Now this is going to be a super fast tutorial, hopefully under like 10 or 15 minutes, which will probably be the fastest tutorial I've ever done, but it's not a real complicated subject or topic or anything like that, at least not for what we're going to be doing. So I'm throwing this tutorial out because far too often I see a question or comment come up in like the Blender groups on Facebook in regards to somebody's got an object, they come over and add a mirror modifier, and nothing happens. And I've explained the answer to this to a lot of people, but honestly I'm lazy. I'm tired of having to type it out over and over again, so I'm just going to make this video so I could just copy and paste, drop a link, and move about my day. Yeah, lazy, that's fine. It's how I roll. I enjoy it that way. Anyway, so the basics of the mirror modifier. When you put this modifier on, you're not seeing anything happen, even when you move the object around, and there's a reason for that. Two things we need to understand so that we can understand why it isn't working right away. First thing we need to understand is what is being mirrored. Where is this mirror effect taking place? And it's actually all of the vertices that make up this object. Everything right now is being mirrored along the x-axis. However, we don't see anything because what's right here is getting mirrored over to here, and what's right here is getting mirrored over to here, and they're just exactly on top of each other. You know, we can't see anything. They're occupying the exact same point in the environment, so there's actually nothing there for us to observe. Now, that's the first thing, what is being mirrored? The second thing is, what is it being mirrored based off of? And for us, that is the point of origin of our object. And that's why when you drop this mirror modifier on, it doesn't look like anything's happening. Well, the left and right sides of this, or I guess that's left, the left and right sides of this are literally mirroring each other on the x-axis, because that's what we have selected in our modifier, but they are doing it based off of this center point right here. So everything on this side is being mirrored to that side, and everything on that side is being mirrored to this side. And yeah, it's just based off that little center point. So as you can see, we don't actually have any real noticeable change. Now, if we want to observe an actual noticeable change, we need to move that point of origin somewhere else. So I can actually just drag this cube over this way, and then, well, you might want to just bring up the search feature and type set O, and that should bring up set origin in your list, or you could type out origin. Again, I'm lazy. Anyway, so if you open the set origin list, you can then move your origin, that little orange dot, to various other things. What you have selected, the 3D cursor, which I currently still have in the middle of this environment. Sorry, I have a sun in there. But yeah, the 3D cursor, things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the origin to the 3D cursor. Now, I'm not going to go through the search again. I'm going to use the hotkey. One of the most ridiculous in Blender, it's Control Alt Shift and C. Or I say Shift Control Alt C. I guess I was backwards on that. It works the same way, doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to snap or set the origin of this object to the 3D cursor. And as you can see, when that happened, another cube appeared. And that's because this mirror modifier is mirroring this object on the x-axis based off the point of origin. So yeah, now I can move this around, and as you can see, they don't change distance or anything like that. That's because this point of origin isn't getting any further away from the cube. It moves with the cube. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit that. It is part of the cube. So yeah, as we move the cube, we move it. And you may notice it's also where our little arrows widget happens to be located on our object, the point of origin. So let's grab that, move it up to the Z-axis, and one more time, Shift Control Alt C, and set our cursor to the 3D, or our point of origin to the 3D cursor, and then we could turn on the Z mirror modifier, and now it's going to modify below the Z-axis. And if we turn on the Y modifier and we drag this back to about there and then move our point of origin back to this center, now you can see we are mirroring that cube on the X, Y, and Z axes. And it's all just being mirrored off of that origin point. Now, there is another way to mirror it, to basically pick a point that it is mirrored based off of. So if we throw a cube down here, and I'll actually just drag that over a little bit, and then I'm going to throw a sphere in. None of this matters as far as prettiness, it's just to get the point across. So now with our cube selected, we can add a mirror modifier, and go ahead and go on X, Y, and Z. And this time, instead of the point of origin of the cube, we are going to pick an object to mirror the cube off of. So basically, we're going to pick our own point of origin. In this case, it's going to be the sphere. So you can click the drop-down list and select your object, or you can just click the little eyedropper and then click on your object. And as you can see, now the sphere is acting as the point of origin, where the mirror modifier is basically split, where it's mirroring one side against the other. And now because it's on its own object, I can actually grab this. Let's lock that to the X. I can actually grab this and move this back and forth. And you'll notice that it's a it's a symmetrical movement. If this cube, if we pull up our list over here, let's get our location. So this cube's at negative 3.98621 on the x-axis. That means that this cube will appear at positive. And now that's only because this is directly in the middle of the world environment. As I move this out, the distance between the cubes grows, obviously, because it is mirroring this one off of, it's producing this one as a mirrored image of this one based off of this point here. So the further our point of origin that we're basing our mirror off of gets away from this object, the further this object will also be away from that point of origin, and therefore much more distance between the two objects. It's kind of an exponential growth sort of thing for you. And then, yeah, because it's linked on all three axes, it doesn't matter which way I go. It can just fly all over the place. And now, out of curiosity, I'm not sure clipping will actually have an effect. Yeah, when we're out here, and it doesn't. I will show you what clippings... Oh, wait, hey, one of the cubes caught. Crazy. All right, well, clipping is more so something you'll use in edit mode in the more traditional manner of using a mirror modifier. A lot of times for extras and things like that, where you want a whole bunch of an object, an array modifier tends to be a lot more common. Oh, one other thing about the mirror modifier when you're when you're using it like this, if you select any one of your objects, they will all be selected because technically they are all the same object. However, one of them will always have a highlighted point of origin, and that is your primary, that is your main object. And again, it doesn't matter which one you select, it will select them all, and the same one will always have a primary point of origin. And that basically lets you know what your original object was, and that the rest of these are just mirrored copies of it. All right, so let's delete that and delete that. Now, the almost more common means of using the mirror modifier is when you're producing a mesh or whatnot that's going to be symmetrical either across all 4 points or just, on the x-axis, y-axis, or z-axis. And it just makes it easier to model your mesh, your object. So if we come into edit mode real quick, and the first thing I'm going to do is add a subdivide modifier, and that way it gets us this line right down the middle, our middle point. And then now because we have our middle point selected, I can grab these 3 vertices on the left-hand side and delete them. Now, with our object cut in half like that on the middle line, I can add a modifier, add the mirror modifier, and it's going to mirror it on the X line, which is what I cut that half off. Now back in edit mode, you can see that I have these vertices over here, but the rest of the object doesn't let me select it, and that is the mirrored half. And anything I do to one of these vertices will happen on the other side. Now, if you want to be able to grab a vertice from anywhere, you can actually do that simply by coming into your mirror modifier, and this last little icon in this row of 4 turn that on. And that now opens up the ability to actually manipulate the vertices on any point of the mesh, whether it's the mirrored side or not. However, be mindful, if I select this vertice over here, you'll see it actually selects this one as well and shows my control scheme over here. So with it selected, because I selected this one, if I grab and try to move it towards the middle, you can see it's actually moving in the opposite direction of where my cursor is moving. And that's because technically I'm moving this one that way, not this one that way. And as this one moves that way, the mirror modifier causes this one to move out the other direction, equidistant, by the same amount. So yeah, as I grab this and move it that way, the other side goes absolutely crazy. Your movements are backwards, basically. So more often than not, you're probably better off, not having that turned on and just working on the one side of the mesh. That way you don't end up moving things the wrong direction all the time because you're confused about whether you're on the left or the right, so on and so forth. Anyway, back to the clipping. Clipping's not turned on. Why is, it's because I'm not mirroring across that axis. So if I grab one of these vertices up here at the top or the bottom, or even this middle one, right across where the mirror line is, you can see they pull apart. And that's where clipping comes in handy. You turn clipping on, and then when you try to move something, if it's on that centered mirrored point, it doesn't allow you to pull the vertices away from each other. They're effectively a single vertice now. However, that can end up causing problems at sometimes. So like, let's delete that vertice and delete that vertice. And then turn on Y as well. So now we have a four-way mirror. Anything we do to this vertice is going to affect all the other four corners. So here's our four-way mirror. That's cool. I can grab that up. It's going to raise all four up, raise all four down. We'll say I have clipping still on. Well, let's go on the Z-axis. Well, wait a second. Now I can't move my vertice up or down. Why can't I move my vertice? It's like, I can move it on the y-axis, I can move it on the x-axis, but I can no longer move it on the z-axis. And that's because when we turned on the z mirroring, it actually produced another essentially plane right here. And now because clipping is on, all these vertices are linked to each other, so it won't let us pull those two vertices away from each other, and they're stuck at the 0 point on the z-axis. So if we turn clipping off real fast and then I grab that and drag it up, you can see it actually separated them. However, if I turn clipping back on and bring it back down and let them touch and let go, it's back to them being stuck together. So sometimes clipping can actually get in the way of what you're trying to do, and be mindful of that. As far as the other things, merge is pretty self-explanatory. If when it's mirroring, if certain vertices are within this merge limit distance, which is currently set really small, the vertices got to be pretty much right on top of each other, it'll automatically merge them for you, making them one vertice, which can help keep your mesh a little cleaner. Also, though, it might screw up quads or something that you're working on developing, so be mindful of that. The vertex option or whatever is just clearly what it says. We are mirroring the vertices. And as far as textures go, you got U and V, and it's mirroring them on the U coordinate and the V coordinate. I don't know what that stands for. If I had to guess, it'd be similar to the X and Y coordinate, or perhaps it's the magnitude and the angle and polar coordinates or something like that. But it's just for mirroring the textures. So yeah, there's the mirror modifier. Not too difficult, pretty easy to figure out. You just got to remember the two important things. What is being mirrored and what is the point from which that is being mirrored? What's the center point of your mirror? And again, that's why you can just throw a random object in there, add the mirror modifier, and nothing happens to it. It's because it's currently being mirrored off that point of origin, and everything on this object is equidistant, is the same distance from that point of origin. So that dot's not closer to one side or closer to the other side, therefore everything is being mirrored perfectly on itself. This side is currently mirroring onto that side, but it's mirroring in the exact same position that the stuff on this side is already at. So yeah, you either need to move the object and change your point of origin, or you need to add an object to set your point of origin to. And mind you, it doesn't have to be a full object. We can go down here to empty, grab a planes axis, something that won't show up in our render view, and then use that empty as the point of our mirror threshold. So yeah, it doesn't have to be an actual full object. It can be an empty that you don't have to worry about being visible. All right, well, there you go. There's the mirror modifier. Hopefully that was helpful. Sorry if it seemed really rushed and random. I didn't really practice or prepare for this. I just saw the question and was like, you know what? I'm tired of answering that question. I need to make a video. All right. Well, as always, hopefully you learned something. You can throw your questions and comments down in the comments section below. Currently working on a freebie procedural sky that I'm going to give away to celebrate hitting 100 subscribers. I know that's not much at all, but my kid thought I should do like a little miniature milestone, and now I'm getting all carried away with it, trying to make the best procedural sky I can. So yeah, the texturing videos and drivers videos that are still in the works are going to be a little ways out while I work on this sky, but hopefully I'll have it done soon and get back to producing some more videos for you guys. In the meantime, good luck with whatever projects you happen to be working on, and as always, enjoy creating things your way.